Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you. If you can let us know, confirm if you're hearing us. If are you able to hear me? If you can, just let me know that. And I do appreciate your time. We have Kyle who would be joining us in a bit. So thank you for your time. I hope you guys had a good Monday. Okay. So we're actually going to go through really quickly through some of these information, just in case if you have not been with us before. We wanted to kind of just give you a quick recap on, what it is we do, and take it from there. Okay. So let's actually begin. All right. So just a little bit about why Display.Church. I think we would consider ourselves a very advanced platform for churches with many enterprise level solutions. Now, when we first started, there wasn't an integration with for, let's say, calendars and groups for your external integration, your external apps like Planning Center and CCB and Breeze, as well as the integration for calendars for Google Play. So there wasn't much option. So that's one of the needs we filled when we first got started. But since then, we understood that, look, churches have events all the time, everywhere, and yet still, people still don't know when something is. Hey, they may ask, when is this event, right? You put it on social media, you sent a text, you sent an email, you sent a newsletter. And one of the things we recognize is that you need to be able to segment your information and present that in such a way that people can follow and understand where it is, right? So I think a lot of what you see that Display offers that is not built into many of the partners we work with is that's one of the primary things. The second thing, the ability to segment. The second thing is obviously no code, easy to customize, and you can set up many different variations based on your needs. So you may have an event conference coming up and you want to set up a specialized calendar for that, we make that easy for you. So tons and tons of stuff, and while keeping within your brands. A quick reminder, we offer the group widgets, we offer calendars, integration, event alerts, sign up forms, and now Mailchimp. So our groups works primarily with CCB or Pushpay, CCB, and Planning Center. So you can bring in your different groups. We have different views. You can have many different attributes you can filter by so that you can have very specific targeting information. You just don't present all the groups all at once. All right. And we have different views for that. Our calendar widgets, that's how we first started. It works with Pushpay, CCB, Planning Center, Breeze, and Google, right? So if you don't have a church management system and you have Google, which is free, you can actually use our system. And obviously, what we do is you set it once and almost forget it. And if you make a change, it's going to show up everywhere. So that's one of the things that we kind of push. All right. And one of the things we have, the other third product is banner alerts. I think it's a product that can be used more. I think it's a very interesting product because what you can do is you can target a particular feature event, and then you can show that as an alert. So if you have features events, if you have important events coming up and you would like that to be shown, you can have an alert that shows up only when that event is upcoming. And as soon as that event is over, it goes away. All right. So there's an example of a banner alert. You can show it at the top. You can show it below. And again, you don't have to actually go back and forget. Sometimes you may have a featured event, you may have a built-in alert, and you have to go back and remember that you need to take it down. So you have tons of options. You have some customization options that you can do with the buttons, with the text, so that the alert stands out. And you can kind of see an example there. And tons of options of where to display this, whether it's at the top, at the bottom, whether you want it to be sticky or not. Do you want it to show as soon as the page load or not? So I think the event alerts, in addition to all the customization color options, is a really good option you can consider. And then finally, in terms of the products that we have already existed is sign up forms. And it primarily works with Planning Center forms right now. So that's if you have not if you're not using it, if you weren't aware, this is definitely something that you should consider. All right. And now bringing us to our latest product, which is the integration with Mailchimp. Now it's going to start as a Mailchimp product, and we have explored that this can be used in Gmail, it can be used in other newsletter systems. So that's something we are actually looking into. But why Mailchimp, right? I think we see a lot of churches are using Mailchimp, and Mailchimp has a built-in option to easily work with their RSS feeds and their code builder. So that's why we started this process. And the main thing that you would have with an embeddable widget is the ability to save time. And I'm going to bring in Kyle in a bit, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience there. The other thing is you can create multiple widgets and have targeted events. So one of the things we see churches do week after week, you might send all events to everyone, and people scan it, it looks pretty, but people basically are aware of what's happening from a high level, but they are not necessarily taking action. It's not really targeted to them. So with our email widget builder, not only can you save time because you're not recreating and uploading images and formatting, you just copy and code from Display.Church, which already has your events, and pasted it in. Not only are you saving time, you can target different groups. You can create maybe a section for men's, a section for women. And then once you have that code, you can reuse it over and over again if you want. And we're going to look at that in a bit. All right. So, I really appreciate many of our initial alpha testers, like Kyle, etc., who really helped us fine tune this. A lot of his comments has made it to the app and has made this particular Mailchimp embed very useful. All right, so I'm going to kind of just bring him in a bit here. Kyle.
Hey.
Thank you for your time, man. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
Excellent. I do appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the testing and feedback that you have given us. Why don't you not tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Kyle. Like you know already, I've been on staff at Meadow Park in a communications and other pastoral role, pastor or position, excuse me, for about like 7 years or so. I've been a part of this church for almost 18 years before coming on staff, and met my wife here, and this is where our family, worships. So it's my wife Lauren and our 3 girls, Malia, Iris, and Helena, and so we love being a part of what God's doing in and through Meadow Park Church. I love using my skills and talents to help people understand the gospel more clearly, to help the church continue to grow and thrive and connect with people in our community. So, yeah.
Thank you. And I think you guys have been with us coming up to a year now. So
Yeah.
why did you consider Display.Church?
So Display.Church for us was a great option, as we are working through a lot of different web projects right now. One of the friction points that we've had is our church management system integrating into our website. One thing that always seemed to lack was the ability to get Planning Center connected with our Squarespace site. And there were some kind of workarounds, but it was always a few extra clicks in order to get people to where they needed to be. And so a great thing about Display.Church has been the fact that you can create these beautiful widgets and just be able to plug and play them into specific pages. And then that way people are more immediately connected into your church management system. So for us, it's Planning Center, and it's a lot easier to be able to point people to things like events, to point people to registrations, to groups, especially being able to utilize all those different features that Jason had talked about, at the beginning. So for us, Display.Church has been incredibly beneficial for us to be able to connect our people, our church, with what is going on.
Man, I appreciate that. And thank you for that. So what we want to do is, while Kyle, he is about to share his screen as we kind of walk through some options. Let me see if I need to stop sharing my. So we're going to look at the Mailchimp. If you guys have any questions, please do paste it in the comment section. So we have Graham joining us. We have Mandy. We have Katie. And we have Samuel from Switzerland.
Oh,
So
awesome.
Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, and Switzerland. And we really enjoy working with Samuel and the cool things he had been doing over there. Really, really interesting things. So as you can see, our product is in multiple continents as well, because one of the things we do offer is the ability to customize the language, right? So I think those are some additional things that we like doing. So Kyle, if you can go ahead and
Yeah, you got it.
yeah.
So here we go.
Right.
And can you guys see my screen all right?
I'm seeing it. The comments. If you're not able to see it, please do let us know.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things we want to kind of show is, let's start with the end result first.
Yeah.
So Kyle, could you walk us through what we're seeing here?
Yeah. So I've been talking with Jason a little bit over the past month or so about some of these integrations with Mailchimp and Display.Church and Planning Center for us. One of the things that we've done over the years has been able to send out monthly or quarterly event emails. And so previously in Mailchimp, all of this would have been, built, copy paste, line by line, and setting a lot of this stuff up. The beautiful thing is now with some of these evergreen options, we can display everything that's going on for our church, within a certain window or a certain span of time. And it's great because wherever we've created this in our calendar app, we can just literally copy and paste that in, and it's a breeze. So it makes a lot of our monthly communications a lot more streamlined. And as we add more events, those events will just populate into an email like this. And so for us, for right now, this is kind of like a February monthly or quarterly template that I've been working on. And so we've got some serving opportunities. We've got an opportunity coming up here in the next week where we've got an event for folks to be able to meet our pastor and some of the other pastors on staff, and then another service opportunity as well. And so it just allows us to be able to help remove some of the friction to get people connected to Planning Center, where we're populating all of these things in there.
And on average, how much time you think, if you have to guess, like, is this saving you time, or what are some of the benefits you're seeing?
Yeah. So for something like this, especially with the Mailchimp integration, it's going to save us a ton more time, because even though I'm doing this for some things for specifically like all church kind of happenings and events, I'm also doing this for outreach, which is the other ministry that I oversee. And I want to be able to point people to upcoming service opportunities. And then not only that, we can create widgets specific for our next gen ministries with kidsmen and youthmen and even young adults. And so they can literally just copy and paste those widgets into their emails. And so not only is it a time savings for me, it's going to be a time savings for those that are serving in these other ministries as they're communicating to the rest of our church and the rest of our community. I'd say from, a month to month perspective, it's definitely going to save me at least 30 to 40 minutes of just making sure that everything's there, because not only am I updating our Planning Center events there, we were previously updating them also in the email as well. And so it's cutting a lot of that time in half or just drastically.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, if you do make changes, so a lot of times if your events are not changing, you can kind of have a template, clone it, and maybe make a few tweaks. But if it do change, you do have that benefit when it about to be sent is going to pull the latest information from your events and then send that as well. So excellent. Could you show us what the behind the scenes of how do you get this set up? How do you do this? So I wanted to make sure that everyone can see that this is not a demo where I'm showing you the ideal case. We have a real person using it. So I'd love to see how you would have gotten this from Display.Church into Mailchimp.
Yeah. So I guess just real briefly too, I guess to kind of show a little bit of what we're doing with Planning Center. So we've got all of our events sort of set up and we've got them tagged, right? Just so that we can populate them into separate widgets, like when we get to Display.Church. So you can kind of see all of our events here, being able to serve at a food pantry, meet the pastors, other service opportunities, spring beautification day, all of that stuff. And, they all end up populating on our church center page, for events, which is super. So then when we jump into Display.Church, this is where a lot of the magic happens. So we're here and we're able to click on the specific product that we want to create a widget for and embed into Mailchimp, specifically with calendars. And so you can kind of see where I'm starting to use some of these different tags so that we can populate them not only on our website, but then begin to use them in Mailchimp as well. And so I will use this full calendar listing that you see here. So I'm going to click on this. And then you've got basically our entire calendar as we have populated to date, with or without images, to be able to drop into Mailchimp or drop on our website and be able to utilize this. So you're basically measuring twice and cutting once, so to speak. And I love that. So we'll, go through, we can fix up everything that we would want, in our calendar so that it embeds on our website correctly. But then when we dial in specifically for a Mailchimp installation, I'll click on install over here. And then, we're going to click specifically on Mailchimp. And from here, we click next. And then we're presented with this other window that gives us a little preview of everything that we are looking at here. And so for me, I'm going through and I'm changing some of the template to meet some of the needs that we have, and some of the things that you'd seen in that preview. Click on stacked. We want to have it be evergreen. That way we can use the same widget from month to month. And it's going to show the events for the next 31 days, which is critical because this is a piece that we send out every month. And so wherever we can kind of save some of this time, it's incredibly helpful. So we've got this, we can toggle whether we want to show the event title or not, the date or not, location, description. One of the things that I had really talked about with Jason is some of the feedback is we have the ability to limit the description, because we're putting in a lot of great information in there. And at least in our use case, it would be beneficial to show all of the description that's there. So we'll toggle that off so that we've got our whole event description populating here in the widget in a moment. We're going to show the image. And then another great place where we've been able to get some of the feedback integrated into the widget itself too, is to be able to direct this read more button directly to the event page instead. And so that's super helpful because then as we're pointing people to a registration or to a calendar, it's going to take them directly to our planning center page. And so I'll go through this. I'll just make sure that everything looks good. And I'll hit copy template. And so right there, we've been able to copy this Mailchimp code that we're going to drop into Mailchimp. So once you paste it in, it's going to look kind of like this. So I'll come over here, close out this preview, and you can already see a little bit of what this ends up looking like. You would simply, if I were to replicate this, you can just copy and paste directly into an HTML element in Mailchimp. And then when you go to preview, you're going to see all of your events populating right there. It is beautiful. I mean, the fact that you can click through on the image or the learn more button or the read more button, and it'll take you directly to your Display.Church page. Or excuse me, not Display.Church page, but your planning center event. That is the most helpful part, I think, of a lot of these types of things, because it's getting people directly into your church management system.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, and I appreciate you showing that. Is there any questions for us? If you do have any questions, please do say so. One of the things that you can do is static versus evergreen. And I know Kyle talked about the evergreen option, which is probably one of the options that will be more likely used in most cases. But I think the static option is really good. So think about you having some event and that event is in, say, a summer camp or something, right? Or summer camp, you can start to advertise that now by using the static option. So every time the email sends out, it doesn't update for the next week. It's just static based on a few parameters like the next 30 days, or you can take like the date from August the 1st to August the 31st, and then based on the calendar, you can have those things show. So if it's a featured event, you'd want to create a special calendar that filters out those events. But then once you pick that date range, you can have that in your calendar from months in advance.
Yeah.
And not only could they see what's the next few events coming up in the next few weeks, they can see what's coming up, months in advance. So I think, there's two main options when you really look at it. The static versus the dynamic is really helpful, and I think it covers some use cases. Obviously, we have basic customization now. It's a new feature, and we hope to add more. I know Kyle has some additional options, in terms of designs. I know you did some additional design, and because it's HTML, you can customize it.
Yeah.
I think you use ChatGPT or something
Yeah.
like that. And once you customize it once, you don't have to do it over and over again. We hope to add more options built in, but I think what we have now will give you a really good base. What did you use, Kyle, to get a few additional customization?
Yeah. So originally, I completely missed the stacked option that Jason had, available in the widget installation. And so I was using ChatGPT initially to help me modify a lot of the code, add some important tags just to help reinforce that, and then to populate my stacked option or to change the verbiage that's on the button. Rather than read more, it'd be learn more, and some of those types of things. And so there's a lot of great use cases out there where you can use any of your own scripting knowledge or AI to help you write some of the additional code to adjust some of those options. Outside of the Mailchimp widget, I also use it for some of the other things to stylize buttons for like our group finder, for example. It's a great opportunity to continue to customize to meet sort of like your church's brand there. And so for us, ChatGPT, that's just been the easiest tool for me to end up using.
Thank you for that. We do have a question from Graham Long.
Yeah.
He's saying, can we filter events based on the publish and publish tag in Planning Center? I would say that I know we have a Planning Center user on here. So you do have the option to show whether something has been published or not. You could bring those in, and then you can decide to show it or not. Is that your understanding, Kyle?
Yeah. So what I was going to maybe point out too is, I'm using a lot of different tags. I'll have an outreach tag. I've created tags for our NPC kids, our NPC youth. And so when you're going through and creating specific calendar widgets, you can filter by specific tags. I'm trying to recall whether or not you can actually do it based on if it's published or unpublished. But you definitely can add some of those types of visibility filters.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was going to see if I can pull up an example here. So for both Pushpay, CCB, and Planning Center, we do have an option if it's. Let me double check that for you and I may have to get back to you offline, but I know we have an option for approval or not. So if the event was not approved, you can actually still show those.
Yeah.
On published events, I need to double check that, and I'll get back to you, Graham, after the call. Okay. But I think we have tons of options where you can display those. So we bring those in. And yeah, once you within Planning Center, let me see if I can find one now. You have the option to do tag groups via feed, groups via connections, a regular group type, approval, status, and featured.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the ones that you can do. You can show hidden events. So show and hide where yes. So let me actually just go ahead and hit share real quick. And if there's any other questions, I'd love to entertain those. Anything on Mailchimp as well, I'll definitely love to entertain those as well. Let me go ahead and hit share here. So if you can see on the screen over here, you have this option at the very top is show hidden events. So if you wanted to show events that were not published in Church Center, you can. So I think that answers your question directly. So if you toggle that on, it's going to bring in events that is not published. All right. So it gives you the flexibility where you may not have to publish events, but yet still you want to bring those in. Those are definitely options. So you can see there's tons and tons of options. We try to allow you to pull out as much data as you want.
Yeah.
So Graham asks, is it still in beta? Or when can we expect to be able to install the Mailchimp integration? So I would, at this point in time, it's out of alpha and we're asking you to give it a try. We have about a dozen of churches that are giving it, have been at least tested out so far. So it's definitely ready to go. Give it a try, do a test, make sure it works for you. We'd love for you to actually use this feature. So beta just means that we are still collecting feedback. We have tested it enough. We think it works as is. If you have additional comments, do let us know. We think it's stable, it's solid, and it's okay for you to actually give it a try. All right. Any other questions for us? So we were talking about the Mailchimp option. Just a quick reminder. When you would start with a calendar. We recommend that you create a new calendar option. Generally, if you want to really tap into the specific options, the filtering happens in the calendar, right? So that's why if you want specific things, if you already have a calendar and you like it, you don't need to set up a new calendar. Once you go to install, if it's not published, you need to publish it. You hit install, you go to Mailchimp, you hit next, and this is just a review, a shortened review to what Kyle just did. And as Kyle said, you have you can do side by side or stacked. Right, so those are the two kind of options we give you out of the box. And then we have static and then evergreen. So with static and evergreen, well, static, this is the option that I was referring to. You can actually pick the date by which you want to show this information. So again, if you have a VBS or some sort of event happening in, let's say, August, you can go to that month and you can pick from August, whatever, or even if it's a weekend series, right? We only go up to 30 days. So you want to make sure you're within that region. Now, this static data that you have here will always remain the same. So even if you send the newsletter week after week, it's static, it doesn't change. And that's a great option for upcoming events. Evergreen is the option that is going to change, and evergreen would, you have a few options here, and evergreen would change based on I guess things like the next 31 days, right? So let's say if I want to show the events for the next 7 days, I can do that. I can then limit events as well. If I, in 7 days, if I have 10 events, but I only want to show the next 3, I can do that. If I want to show the next 2, I can do that. Or the next 1, I can do that. So you can go to an entire range, and it starts from, you can pick the date where it starts from. Do you want the events to start from today onwards? Or maybe you want to do a next week. Here's the next week's event starting from Monday or starting from Friday. You also have the option to do first day of the next month. So let's say if you wanted to show something starting next month, you could kind of do an evergreen for what's happening from the first day from the next month. So if I send that newsletter every week in the month of February, first week, second week, third week, fourth week, this code would always show me what's the few events that is happening in the upcoming month. So you can create multiple versions of these for one newsletter, right? So you can have static, you can have upcoming, you can have, you know, and then you can have all of that set up once, and then you don't have to recreate that each time. You have a few options here that we already talked about to customize it. So that's a quick summary of how it works. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you everyone for joining. Kyle, I appreciate your time, and you guys have a blessed day.
You too.